BetStamp wants to ensure you've maximized your ROI. Line shopping for the best odds matters, and that is why any profitable sports bettor needs to be using multiple sports books. Thankfully, there has never been a better time to get signed up, and they are here to connect you with the best promotions industry-wide. Using their link, signupexpert.com-TAS, you can get access to all the sportsbooks in your region, along with a review of each platform and its unique features. Most importantly, this page automatically connects you to the top promotions at each book, allowing you to start line shopping with an enhanced.
This is the Todd Atkins Show, okay? We're talking about Todd Atkins. I've known him for a very long time. Fantastic person, handsome person, and a really tough guy, okay? You're talking about a tough guy. He talks about combat sports. You're looking at Colby Covington. Fantastic people in combat sports. And Todd Atkins is a highly respected person. He talks about it all the time. He's got a great show. You're watching the greatest show, okay? The Todd Atkins Show, and you're watching it. I would not want to pick a fight with Todd. I would not want to pick a fight with Todd, so don't miss it. He's got the greatest people and the greatest show. Not like the fake news, okay? He's a great show, highly respected, and you don't want to miss it, believe me.
All right, so it's Todd Atkins, and I'm here with Scott Burnett and Miguel Iturrate. And, me and Scott kind of talked about Ryan Garcia's first test failure, but it wasn't confirmed at the time. So we're going to kind of discuss, the second one, obviously, and maybe a little bit of Fury Usyk too. And Scott and Miguel are both big boxing guys, so this should be some good stuff. Now, Scott, I kind of want to let you start out and educate some people on one, Garcia missing weight, and two, the advantages of using Ostarine.
Well, Ostarine is a selective androgen receptor modulator, and it's going to give some advantages to your strength, they say, to your conditioning, and some say even losing body fat going into a fight while maintaining some of your muscle mass. Again, I'll say what I said in the last interview we talked about. I don't know why he used it or why he would want to or even run the risk of using it unless he felt that maybe it was going to be hard to make the weight, or maybe he wasn't even going to make it anyway. And he wanted an advantage. He claims he didn't take it. The sample B says differently, though.
Right. Right.
Yeah. I don't understand why his camp, if they knew or they knew that he was wanting to take it, they would allow it. But I think it goes back to the same thing I said. I think a lot of misconceptions about these types of compounds come in when people think, well, it's only this part of a half-life or this part of a half-life, so it must, because it's if it's a 24-hour half-life, that means in 12 hours it's only half the strength, and in 24 hours it's out of my life. It's at 24 hours it's half of it, and then 48 hours it's out of my system. It's not the way it works. And these guys who do the IOC testing and the different testing from these different laboratory companies have just amazing things that they can test with now, and they can find things in your urine for a long period of time, and it's very hard to beat the test. And I said to you off camera, interestingly enough, Victor Conte is working with Devin, and he's used the clear before, and that's what a lot of athletes were using to beat the tests at the international level, at the Olympics and different things. And now he's working with boxers. Whether he has his athletes doing that or not, I think hopefully he learned his lesson the first time when he got in trouble with the feds on that, with the Balco scandal. But it's not about him. this is about Garcia and what he's done with taking Austrian. He claims he didn't take it. He claims, I don't even know what it is. I didn't take it. I want to cry. Yada, yada, yada. All I took was ashwagandha, and it's a supplement over the counter. And I took some vitamin D6 or whatever with omega 3s. I don't know what this stuff is or what they're talking about. I gave a hair sample and it's not my hair sample. That's where we are with this. The testing says different.
You know, for people who say, well, that doesn't matter, that doesn't change the fact that Haney got caught with the left hook a lot. What do you say to that?
Well, I mean, anytime anybody's cheating, and using something to give themselves an advantage, there's going to have to be some things put in place, or if they've been known to do it. I mean, it's going to be up to the discretion of the fighter going in. Like, Haney, do I want to fight this guy, or do we want to put in some stringent testing, much like Floyd was trying to do with Pacquiao? And if there is any test leading up to the fight, blood test or urine test, how much, because it's all about money, right? I mean, that's what we're doing this for. How much are we going to be fined, and how much am I going to receive for him being tested? Or are we going to go on with the fight, or is it going to be postponed, or are we going to move on to something else? I doubt Haney, even if he was tested for Austrian before the fight, would be like, no, it's okay. I don't want to fight for the $10 million or whatever he made. I think that he would probably want more money from him for being, and then Garcia being suspended, which that's still on the table, I think, from what I understand.
Yeah. Now, Miguel, I'm going to let you chime in here, kind of maybe give your thoughts on, Garcia obviously is B sample. Garcia was saying before that it wouldn't be positive. It is. So maybe talk about that.
Well, first of all, on a boxing perspective, especially on the modern end, I'm going to defer to Scott because he's obviously had his hands on and been much more, involved than I. I'm more of a historian. But I will fall back on an old story. In 1910, there was a lightweight world champion named Ad Walgast. Ad Walgast is actually the photo, the picture in the medical books for fighter dementia, because he fought way too hard, had a style of taking punches so he could hit you, and he wound up spending the last 25 years of his life in a mental hospital. By 1912, he was already starting to fade. In 1919, he found a doctor, and this doctor in Texas's house is a museum now. It's like a place that, like a heritage place that you can't mess with or anything like that. So you can find it in old newspapers. This doctor used to advertise an operation, and Ad Walgast went through this operation. Basically, what the operation was, how goats are virile, right? Well, they went to his goat farm, picked out, Ad Walgast said, that's the goat I want. They cut the goat's balls off, opened Ad Walgast's scrotum, and just threw him in there. It's not like they, medically put him in there, but that's basically the operation. This was supposed to add virility to Ad Walgast. Is that cheating? People have been looking for an advantage,
right,
since the very, very beginning of this stuff. And it probably goes before that also. Any advantage you can get. And Garcia was actually at a crossroads in his career, after the loss he took to Gervonta. And his social media presence was kind of wacky before the fight and stuff like that. So he had a lot of pressure on him. So I have to say, I don't believe him. I really just simply don't believe him that he didn't do anything or anything like that. And in terms of Victor Balco and guys like that, I worry about the scientist guys. And that's what this guy is, right?
Yeah.
And I'll give you the example in boxing. This is recent of the heavyweight Alexander Povetkin. I think he ate a suspension because there was a drug that the Russians were using. And I think that tennis players have all tested positive for it and stuff like that, that expands your lung capacity. And it appeared in his test and then didn't appear in his test. And he said he took it last year and what happened is, since that drug wasn't on the list of banned things, he was doing it while it was legal. And then obviously they did the analysis and said, hey, this is an advantage, so we're going to make it illegal. And now it gets put on the list. So a guy like Victor Valco could have you ahead of the game. And that's really the way to cheat. As Scott pointed out, you got really scientific testing now where they're going to find you. But what are they looking for? Just items on the list. If you can create something like the cream in the clear from the baseball scandals, was something that was created that wasn't on any list. A chemical ingredient was taken out so that it changed what it was on a test, and now it wasn't illegal anymore. And that's the highest edge of the science that goes involved. And if you ask me, does that go on? I would say yes. In Russia, probably on a state level. But here, you're going to find guys that are looking for an advantage. Right? So Ryan needed to win this fight. He couldn't. You don't go 0-2 at the level he had already achieved in your last two fights. Failed to break through against other guys considered your level, and against Gervonta, he didn't. Gervonta took him out with his own signature punch, so it was almost sort of an embarrassing situation there too, and he had a lot of pressure on him. So I don't believe him, and I think Scott mentioned it too. Is if we have rules, you got to enforce them. You have to enforce. Something has to be done. Because if not, just throw the rules out. Let them all take steroids. Let them all do whatever they want. But right now, that's not the world we live in. So they really need to throw the book at Garcia. And like I said, his wacky behavior beforehand and things like that, I think all that linked up to the pressure he was under.
Yeah. Plus, a lot of people say, like, well, Haney was getting hit with the left hook. But, Garcia not having to make weight. He didn't have to suck down and, and he didn't have to suck down and wait and stuff like that. And, using the steroids, that gave him more power, not having to make the weight and all that stuff. And for people to say that, kind of discount that is kind of silly, in my opinion. Don't you think so, Scott? Or
absolutely. I concur with everything that's been said. I think it's, we're all three on the same page. Look, if we don't do something about people who are cheating, then what? Let everybody cheat. You look at Tom Brady and deflated balls. You look at the Houston Astros a few years. I remember there was a guy that was working out at my gym, and I had a lot of guys who wanted to come in hockey and baseball and stuff, who wanted to box some. Because, they'd get in fights or whatever, in hockey especially, or whatever, and they want to be able to throw a punch and all this stuff. I got to know this one baseball player, and I won't mention his name, but he played for the Cubbies in the 80s, and he was a catcher. That's all I'll say. And he said to me one day, he said, you know what the unwritten motto in baseball is, don't you? I said, the unwritten motto. No, I never heard of it. He said, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. And I think that we've seen it in a lot of sports. And I don't think people mind compromising integrity to win. And even if it is cheating, they're still going to take the chance. I think that people have to be punished, or especially, where do you hurt them the worst? With their purse, with the money. You've got suspensions, stuff like that, or it continues, right? It's an unfair advantage. Garcia saying that he didn't take Ostarine, and then your B sample comes back. Well, your nutritionist or somebody whoever was giving it to you or whatever, you tested positive for it. I think he did probably know. And the reason I say that is because he had a plan. You don't go into a fight like that without a plan. Your team doesn't go into a fight like that without a plan. I think he had a plan to come in 3 or 4 pounds, whatever he was over. I think at the end of the day, he looked at it as a W is a W. And whatever means it takes to get that W, that's what I'm going to do. And then we'll worry about it after. And apparently he bet a lot of money on himself. So I've collected the money anyway that I won. So it won't really matter. What are they going to do? Come back on me?
That's got to be a big deal too. I mean, in Vegas, they're feeling like they got had here.
Well, yeah.
Plus 650.
Plus 650. That's right. Sometimes they're on the good end of it. Sometimes they might be on the bad end of it too. But it goes back to the same thing we've said, Todd. You know, boxing's not the cleanest game out there. It's got a lot of characters in it. It's got a lot of people who, crooks and thieves, and a lot of people who don't mind doing some things that are dirty, and they assume you are. So the fact that you're doing them and you're dealing with street people, managers, promoters, box fighters, business people in a dirty game, they're not saying, "Hey," oftentimes we're going to do this clean, even though they're doing this dirty.
Right.
They're going to meet them at the same level they'll come to, and they probably won't admit to it either. He's probably listening to his attorney, if I had to guess, and his attorney's saying we're not going to admit to anything, you know. And he might be lying to him. I don't know, but I do know that if you tested twice, if your B sample came back for it, you were looking for an advantage. The kid was a little nervous. He was acting extremely eccentric going into the fight, and he was acting, he's a little eccentric anyway. Well, a lot of fighters are. I mean, he's not, the lone wolf there, but he acted a little bit different. I think they had a game plan going in, to be honest with you. I think that. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think you're absolutely right in terms of a game plan, and I think that it's probably a lawyer who comes up with the strategy of deny. Absolutely all right on. But we recently saw this in another cheating case, not with steroids or anything like that, but with Antonio Margarito, and with his wrapping the hands with cement, basically. And it was his coach that took the fall for it. Like, Margarito didn't know. And that's just, whether
you know or killed with that. You get somebody killed with that. Killed.
For sure. And whether you know or not, the fighter at some point needs to be accountable also. You can't just say, "Hey, my nutritionist screwed up, so I didn't know." That's not okay. That's not a good excuse. So, and that's one of the things that goes on, especially, when you get lawyers involved. They're figuring out that strategy of how to get away with things, and I don't think Garcia should not suffer any consequences. I think they should be stiff, and if his excuse is going to be that his nutritionist gave it to him and he didn't know, it's not good enough.
I think that's the same thing. The Mexican kid that fought De La Hoya, who lost to him, he said his name slips my mind. That he'd given him Winstrol V. It was his trainer who gave it to him. They'll make somebody else be the fall guy or whatever. I think Roy got popped for steroids once too, but it wasn't put out in the press that much, But yeah, cheating is not something new in sports. It's certainly not something new in boxing. But again, I agree 100% with you. You're going to have to do something. There'll need to be some things in the contract to where there's some punishment, and there's definitely some punishment on the purse. Definitely.
The other thing I want to ask you guys about that I think is being overlooked, but something that you guys brought up, in the Margarito fight, it was Cotto that he beat up real bad, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Haney took a beating in this fight. He got dropped, 5-7 times. So I mean, I don't think people should take that lightly, given what's happened here.
I think Haney, that the thing that they missed out on was he didn't need the Ostarine. When Haney jabs, he drops his right hand. That's why he's getting countered with the left hook.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's why. Haney was doing something that I saw Jermaine Taylor do a lot. I've seen a lot of good fighters do it. They'll jab and drop their right hand when they jab. And like I told you in the last interview we did, that's why I tape kids' hands to their head. So jab all day. But you got to keep that right hand up to protect, or you're going to have to roll the left hook one. You got to catch it or roll it and counter, because they're countering off you jabbing, and you're getting, you're getting a good left hook right up against the side of your head because you're dropping your right hand when you jab. And that's what happened to him all night. He was wide open.
Right, but Garcia was in better condition because he didn't have to make the weight,
That's true.
and
That's
he used
true.
the
Yeah.
steroids, so he probably
Yeah.
had some extra pop in
Yeah.
that left.
100% agree with
Yeah,
you.
and you
Yeah.
saw
100% agree with you.
Haney's
Yeah.
face
100%.
when he got
Yeah.
hit by those shots. He looked like shocked.
100% agree with you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Cheating is
still
cheating. Go ahead.
yeah, and I think Mike Tyson said it that steroids, or whatever enhancement drugs are out there become different in a combat sport. It becomes almost much more serious than
Mhm.
like football. Of course,
Mhm.
those guys really get hurt too and stuff like that. But it's not quite the same thing. Not with the intent of hurting a person like that. So it's kind of bad news. It's the kind of thing
Mhm.
that they got to figure out a strong way to enforce it.
Yeah.
Probably
What if Haney's never the same after that?
there. That begs a whole nother
Yeah.
question, doesn't it? Opens up a whole new can of worms, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what about CTE? What about lifelong? That's why I think with big fights like this, these belts, man, the WBC, IBF. I mean, I think whenever Teddy was calling them IB fraudulent, the WBA, we be whatever. I mean, all the names that he was making fun of them because he feels like they're fraudulent. But they need to impose testing leading up to big fights. They need to be imposed testing leading up to the fights.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
need to.
a lot of those commissions or federations or governing bodies like the IBF and WBC and stuff like that is really like an old boys club.
Yep.
Like the commissioners and guys like that, they every year they look forward to doing a convention and they fly everybody to Miami and they bring their fighters in and everybody sucks each other off, or lack of a better
Yeah.
word, and
Yep.
you know they get to go to the
Mhm.
fights, VIP treatment and stuff like that, and do it at a high level, and they provide really absolutely nothing except
And
middlemen.
they keep right. They keep the business moving forward.
Yeah,
Well,
they collect the sanctioning fees, and again, if you
hmm
don't pay the sanctioning fees, then they just ignore you. So
hmm
it's a real club when a fighter's now in the sanctioning fee, and like Canelo pays his sanctioning fees for many of the organizations. So
hmm
they all bring him in. He flies in. He's treated well and stuff like that. It's a
Yep.
great weekend. It's a party. And so it's just part of the lifestyle.
Right.
But as Scott pointed out with the lawyers and things like that, how many middlemen do we need to have? These so many
Right.
commissioners involved and so many commissions involved and so many things like that, sucking the blood out of the sport. The fighters would actually make more money if that whole system were simplified. Take some
hmm
of those people out. There's no reason for the WBC commissioner to be at every fight, VIP treatment, 5-star hotel. Who's paying for that
hmm
stuff?
Right.
So
Typically the promoter, but yeah, I agree. I
yeah,
agree. You're 100% right. And, you know, especially on this fight, I think that they're going to, if they were to do another one, but leading up to them, you've got to have some testing going in, or we're going to run into this again and again. The boxing commission or whoever's sanctioning the fight with the WBC, WBA, IBF, whoever, WBO, they need to fly somebody to your hometown and make you take a piss test in front of them in the leading up to the fight, a month out, 2 weeks out, whatever, a week out at the fight,
all of
and
the
then
above.
post fight. You're going to have to. It's not that expensive to do them anymore. And you can cut down on a lot of it because it's going to be extremely hard to get around it. They're testing now, man. You'd have to have somebody else piss for you, you know? And if you have somebody that's there to watch you do it, like they did at the NCAA when I wrestled in college, then it's very hard to get around it. Okay. And I think that's the best. It's the safety, for the safety of the fighter, for the safety of the person, like you mentioned, Mike Tyson, somebody like that hitting you on steroids. You have permanent brain damage if you make it through the fight and live to tell about it, right? So they do need to do that. I think it's just that they've gotten lazy, like and can fly there, just like he was saying, and they're wine and dine and 5-star hotels and treated like a king, and they show up to the fight and they bring the belt to the ring and hand it to the new champion or the same champion, whatever.
Yeah, they're in the
It's a joke.
pictures. They get to show their
Yeah.
people, and they become celebrities for a useless cause. The worry to me about this is that nobody's going to step up and eat the cause, the cost rather, because, for example, let's say you have to go to Mexico or you have to go to Russia. You don't take the piss sample and put it in the mini fridge at the hotel. There's got to be a good paper trail. It's going to have to go to a medical facility over there, and there you're just simply open for another aspect of fraud and another aspect of of a mix-up. So to really police this is not easy. That's why nobody's stepped up to do it. The UFC's tried on certain levels, and they've got all kinds of stories about how really difficult it is.
It is
Including
difficult.
fighters intimidating the guy asking for the test when they get surprised. You got stories about John Jones
I agree.
hiding under an octagon for 8 hours to avoid a test. So it's
He's
crazy.
been popped like 4 or 5 times now. Yeah, but I didn't take anything.
But I mean, in my fight, Haney was hurt bad in that fight. He was holding himself up on Garcia's legs several times. If my fighter's never the same after that, and this guy popped positive for steroids, I'd be pretty mad about that.
Agree. And here's the deal: just like what we've
imagine how much money he's lose out on.
You're going
the rest
to have
of his career.
Somebody, whether it's a promoter or one of the boxing sanctioning bodies or the actual whoever's sanctioning it at that state or country or wherever they're at, along with the WBC or whoever's involved in it, they're going to have to eat the cost of testing these guys going into the fight. Okay, they're going to have to. You're going to have to do it when they start camp. 3 weeks later, whatever, and then at the fight, and then after the fight. You're going to have to. Somebody's got to eat that cost. It's not that expensive to do it for somebody's life. They may look at it like, oh, we don't want to spend the money on that, but at the same time, nobody's life is worth losing it in the ring because another guy has a huge disadvantage and he's punching like a mule kicks, Yeah.
Right. I wonder if Haney has some type of potential chance in court to say, hey, in 2 or 3 years, if he hasn't been the same,
right,
he could go back to his fight, say, look, this cheater really hurt me.
Could take, yeah.
That'd be groundbreaking and different, but it's a possibility that maybe some people need to explore.
Yeah, this caused me to lose X amount of money over X amount of years. You see that in court.
Well, and that's why they settle on things too. I think that, if I was Ryan's group, they better think a little bit deeper about it, like what we're talking about, and think, you know what? Let's just eat it. Let's offer him whatever. And then let's do a rematch with testing leading up to it and make it right. Rather than fight against it. And then something like this, it still could come out later, but I would rather be on good terms, earn some money and do it the right way. I don't know. I don't think he needed it. Like I said, in the first time we talked, I don't necessarily think he needed it. I think Haney's still making some of the little mistakes, from the amateurs that he needs to correct. That, how you're still jabbing and dropping your right hand that far, that's not good, especially with somebody who can counterpunch like this kid, Garcia. I mean, he was clocking him good with the left hook. If he needs to correct, they need to quit concentrating on the drug deal, settle on that. I think that Garcia needs to pay some compensation to Haney. I don't know how much that is, but I think it's something they could meet in terms on to agree on, rematch it, and do it clean.
Well, aren't they going to suspend him? I would assume they would.
Well, maybe so. Maybe they'll suspend him 6 months, come back and do it in November or whatever. But look, come back and do it clean. Have the testing in place. And then go back to clean boxing. You know what I mean? It would be a lot better. And then if you can beat him fair and square, then okay. Whatever. If not, you guys can do a rubber match and make even more money, but at least you're doing it clean.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Fury Usyk. Now, Miguel, on our betting show, he kind of nailed it. He picked Usyk by decision, and he even said the draw would be a good bet, which almost happened. So, Scott, Miguel, we have,
That's good. Yeah,
Scott, I
go ahead.
want kind of give your opinion on what went down with Fury and Usyk.
Well, he fought a left-handed fighter. I don't think he liked the left-handed fighter. I don't think he felt that comfortable. He clowned some during the fight, but he got outboxed. And he almost got knocked out. And what round was it? 7 or not, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
I think he got outboxed. Just like I told you before, if he could establish the jab and get down to the body, I felt like he would have had a better chance. I think Usyk's been hurt a number of times to the body, and seemingly faked, that he was hit low when he wasn't a few times. I mean, Usyk. Did I say Fury? Usyk. But I feel like his timing was a little off, man. And I think the left-handed fighter threw him off. I really do. Yeah. More than anything, I don't think he fared well with him. I think he was quicker than Fury anticipated, and he didn't fight that great a fight. I think he's got to go back to the drawing board and figure out how to beat Usyk. Do I think he can? I do, but he's going to have to be a little more crafty in the ring to do it. Usyk's very crafty. He's a difficult fighter.
Yeah, Miguel, I want you to kind of chime in on this because, like I said, you nailed it pretty much on, as close as you could have nailed it. Maybe talk about it.
I think in this case, they're both very different technically, but they're both probably the best two technical heavyweights that we have out there now. I think, Joshua's a little more vanilla, and I think that these are the two best heavyweights out there. And I thought it might come down to focus on this one. And Usyk, I thought, like Scott mentioned, he hurt him early, or in the mid rounds and stuff. And I thought that his strategy might be to back off. Hey, I got this round, I bank it, and I'm staying ahead, et cetera, et cetera. There's no reason to really put the pedal to the metal. I thought that would be a strategy, and that's how we would get to the decision. If the knockout came, I thought it would come in the late rounds after an accumulation of damage, but it was closer than that. He wasn't destroying Tyson Fury to the point where Tyson was going to be wiped out at the end. Mm-hmm. And the other part about Fury is every time, right? When he fought Steve Cunningham his first time in Madison Square Garden, he got dropped on his butt, and he got up.
Yep.
Every time he's been down, he got up. So to count on Usyk knocking him out, I
don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, I agree with you, Miguel. You're 100% on with your analysis. Great.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So the decision was kind of a no-brainer here, and then it goes one way or another.
A little bit. Yeah, but I agree with you 100%. You're 1,000% on, Miguel. I think he can come back and win the rematch. I mean, what do you make 100? I don't know. Was 125 million? Something insane. To do it 3 times. Good Lord. You're a little past retirement money.
Yeah.
But entertaining fight, I agree with Miguel. His analysis is perfectly right on. I think the left-hander kind of threw. I don't, he made a good point though about SS Cunningham knocking him down, and then, he's been knocked down a few times, Tyson, but he's always got up. He's always weathered through the attrition, and he's a tough guy. He's a really, really tough guy. He's a very good heavyweight. Both of them are really, really good heavyweights, and it was a good fight.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed the fight. I thought it's a shame that Jake Paul and Mike Tyson somehow are getting more attention than this undefeated heavyweight world championship fight. And I'm glad they took home money. That may work against Fury in the future because that focus, he sometimes goes off the rails. You know what I mean? Yeah. And $125 million that you could go on. Will last more than a weekend.
Oh yeah. You got a little more than partying money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what are you guys kind of looking forward to in boxing? Like maybe I know me and Scott talked about Canelo Benavidez, and Scott kind of felt like, Canelo, given his career and all that stuff, doesn't really need to risk getting beat up by Benavidez. So what do you think,
Well,
Miguel?
I think Canelo. I think Scott's right. Canelo calls the shots. You know what I mean? So
mhm,
he'll call the
mhm.
shot whichever way he goes. But I do think that you can find him still with some pride. Like
Oh
I got to beat this guy, and I'd like to beat this guy. And if
mhm.
he gets himself motivated to do it, we could see it. And Benavidez has separated himself. It's a good fight. It's the one that's on the
100%.
radar now. Um, but yeah, if he doesn't want to do it, like I said, Canelo called the shot on that one. If
Yeah.
he could let Benavidez call him out for the next 5 years if he wants.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Miguel on this, and I'll tell you why too. What I meant by that too, what I said was he's not going to fight him for short money. As a matter of fact, after we had that last podcast, I think I read where Canelo was saying something like he wanted 200 million. I think he'll get a ridiculous amount of money, making it juicy and waiting. Um, I think he's probably pulling a little page out of Floyd's playbook by making sure he fights maybe a few more fights. Maybe we can see a little bit more out of it. Maybe get a little more wear on him, a little more shot for him, right? And maybe we see some cracks in him a little bit after 2 or 3 more wars. And then, yeah, it's worth 150, 200 million. Yeah, I'll do that. I think I can weather a fight with this kid. And he's probably not going to be as good a fighter at 30 as I was or I am at 37 or 38 or whatever. So kind of like Floyd did. Floyd was a timing master, right? You know, may not want him exactly right now though, for short money, definitely.
Yeah,
I
and
think I think you get brain damage from a guy like that.
yeah, and Canelo, I think you're right. He's inherited that Floyd mantle where you know he got
Yeah,
rid of De La Hoya. He's managing his own career. He hasn't done a poor job of that.
no.
And I think he's confident enough to call the shots that way. So
And right,
hopefully we see
I
it.
mean, look at this. He's had what 65 fights. He's had as many fights as like a George Foreman. I mean, that's crazy. That's a lot of wear and tear. And we're talking about a kid who's had like 27, 28.
Yeah.
I'm not saying 28 fights is not a lot of fights, but it ain't 65. That's a lot of wear and tear, man, on somebody. So, he's taking all the variables and they're analyzing when's the best time and for the most money and when I'm the least susceptible to being hurt by this kid.
Yeah.
Maybe give him 2 or 3 more fights against pretty tough guys. Maybe we can see some cracks in his game. Maybe he can take a few lumps. Maybe we get a little more wear on him. And, I can make some money in the meantime, 25, 30 million a fight or whatever he's making, crazy money anyway. And I don't have to fight a killer right now.
Yeah.
Timing, just like everything in life, boxing, you can have power and you can have speed, but neither one of them are better than timing.
I kind of compared to Jones and Aspinall. A lot of people are saying they want to see John Jones fight Tom Aspinall, who's this young
Yeah.
British fighter. And, Jones, he's saying, no, I'm going to fight Miocic,
Yeah. I think he's earned the right to pick who he
Yeah.
wants to fight, don't you? Yeah, he's earned it. He's big pass the drug test.
It's like you, the fans, eventually they want to see the guy carried out on a stretcher,
That's
the guy
exactly
who's been
right.
great.
They like, just like they liked in the Roman Coliseum, they still like the Roman Coliseum. They want to see the lions let in on them. That's what they like. It's the casual fans, much like Miguel was pointing out earlier about the Tyson Fury. I mean, or we're talking about Tyson Fury. You were, and then Miguel. Yeah, same thing. I mean, that's a sideshow. I mean, I said Tyson. I said Tyson and the kid, the internet
Jake
kid,
Paul.
Jake Paul. Yeah, I'm sorry, I was confusing you guys. Like, who the hell are you talking about? Tyson and Jake Paul. I mean, it's a sideshow, but people like it because they think Tyson's going to come in there and whirlwind this kid. I don't know if he is or not. I mean, he's 56, 56. He's not moving that lateral that great. I mean, yeah, he can still probably punch. Can he bend his knees? Your power comes from your hips, but they want to see him come in there and 86 this kid, and shut him up. it's a sideshow, right?
Yeah.
Well,
But
it's like you said.
that's what the fans like. They like
It's
that crap.
it's like what you said. Tyson didn't look good in his last two fights 20 years ago.
Right. Yeah. And then, and you made the point about the Coliseum. Yeah. The casual boxing fans that are coming up that watch YouTube, they want to see, an Ika Ibuchi puncher come in there with somebody knock him clean out of the ring, like me at 56 years old, and be carried out on a stretcher. I don't know what the human element is about that, but they like it. But it's a sideshow. I mean, Tyson's waiting.
It's not boxing. It's especially
No, it's not. It's not.
Once it got labeled, especially and not to give credit to somebody that sometimes we don't give credit to, but Chael Sonnen, I think, did hit it on the head in this case.
Yeah.
And that is that the minute it's labeled an exhibition, that takes all drug testing out, that takes all the boxing commission. The boxing commission will get up after governing the rest of the fights on the card and leave, and Jake Paul's judges and et cetera, will all come in and take over, and everybody's hired there. I wouldn't be surprised if, what we see there is more WWE. And from what I know about Tyson and his career, Mike's saying and doing all the right things now, but at the end of the day, if they're going to put $50 million in his pocket, I also think he'll come out later and be, hey, he beat me. I'm done.
Yeah.
But thank you.
No.
He can still sit on his career, and people will still respect him. So yeah, I'm not sure if we're not seeing a construct.
You're right, and the problem we see with boxing is boxing. Let's be honest, they're desperate. Okay, the reason they're desperate is because boxing fans are dying every day. MMA fans are being born still every day, right? Boxing was huge in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. Okay. And then after that, the turn of the century, here comes, or even right before that, Royce Gracie and MMA and cage fighting, NHB, into what we see today. And it's taken over. And now they're trying to resuscitate boxing, and they'll use any means necessary. So we're seeing more desperation out of it, I think. That's why we're seeing people want to see Floyd Mayweather fight somebody in an exhibition, or a guy that's a YouTube star. I mean, come on, man. I mean, I grew up watching freaking Ali and Ray Leonard and, Thomas Hearns and Roberto Duran. And, I mean, now it was an actual fight. These guys were real fighters, man, with unbelievable trainers and, and unbelievable conditioning, and very hungry and very skilled. And it's turned into a kind of a sideshow. But I mean, they're desperate, It's sad to see boxing in the shape it is, but I think we've seen so many characters come through in the last 30, 40 years that they've taken the public and they've destroyed it. They built a lot of hype around certain things, and they turned it into a sideshow. And guys started doing less and less. They made more money. We're seeing it in a lot of sports now. We're probably going to see it with the NIL too. We won't get off into that, but you're probably going to see it with the kids too, getting $5 million, $6 million, play college football as an 18-year-old, not going to class. You pay these guys an astronomical amount of money. I can't remember which fighter, and Miguel, you probably remember it. It's kind of hard. Who said it? I think he said something to the effect, it's kind of hard to get up and go run in the morning when you're waking up with silk underwear.
Yes, Marvin Hagler.
Yeah,
Marvin Hagler, that's it.
Yeah,
That's
for
exactly
sure.
what it was.
Yeah, and that's true. That's once you that's actually one of the things that is actually affecting Conor McGregor now too.
No,
I think
100%.
he's already got the money. It's like, it seems like he stalls to really come back and do it, because I saw pictures of him in cans riding, and stuff like that. It's like, so yeah, it's definitely become a sideshow, and I think it's sad when somebody like Jake Paul is probably going to make more money for his next fight than Terrence Crawford makes for his next fight.
Scary. That's sad.
I think McGregor is almost,
man. What a national treasure that guy is to watch fight, man.
Yeah, I think
something else.
I think I'd like to see him in his prime against Mayweather in his prime.
Oh,
because
yeah.
I might take Crawford.
I might take Crawford. I have to lean that way too. I've never seen him in trouble. We ain't never seen him in trouble.
No,
I've never seen him in trouble.
he's seamless the way he switches from southpaw to righty multiple times in a round, and it's not like a strategy. All right, in the third, I'll switch over. It's like he just does it in the
Yeah,
natural flow of things, and nobody has really come
he
close to doing anything
he
damaging to
can
him.
he can hit from both sides of the plate, like you said, switch like a sweepy, and I mean his accuracy and timing's like a Ray Leonard. He's unbelievable, man. He's unbelievable to watch, and yeah, I hate to see someone like Jake Paul make more money than him. That's terrible.
Yeah, it's
That's
just
what our world's turned into with the internet, though, right?
yeah, for sure. But
Yeah,
that's just wrong. So,
I agree.
You know,
Todd, where'd you go?
Crawford. Oh, shoot.
You there?
Sorry, I don't know why it did that. But hold on, I'll fix it. I think it was the cord on my thing. So
No
anyway, you know, Crawford wrestled in high school. You know,
Yeah.
you usually wrestle with your strong leg forward. So
Mhm.
he was probably, I don't know if he's a righty or a lefty naturally, but
Yeah,
that's probably why he can do that.
he's the best fighter I've seen in a long time, man. I mean, as far as just like at that level,
Yeah,
he and Floyd would have been an amazing fight to see, just like Miguel pointed out. I mean, unbelievable. But I think I'd have to lean towards Crawford too.
yeah,
I've never
yeah.
seen him in any kind of trouble, man, in a fight.
And
Not
and
even
I,
remotely.
I think he also is a guy who can find a mean streak in his fights.
Yeah,
And I think that suits him because when he comes for you, is very hard to stop. And Floyd very rarely, throughout especially the latter part of his career, came for you.
sure.
And so yeah, I think it's an interesting speculation there. I think the
I
only
mean,
fighter
yeah.
in the last since the century turned that you could even put in that category, maybe Andre Ward.
Yeah.
But Andre's a
Mhm.
little more vanilla, but that's not fair to say. But yeah, the sophistication of Crawford's fighting is off the charts.
Yeah, you're right. And the thing is, if he gets you hurt, just like Ray Leonard, when he got you hurt, you're done.
Yep.
He's not a guy that's going to let you off the hook.
No, he comes for you. So that's
Mhm.
glad we talked a little bit about Crawford because any attention we can get to him is a big
Absolutely.
help.
Hmm.
You know, I was going to say, I think McGregor's like the sideshow now. I think Chandler's going to knock his head off. You know, he hasn't won a fight in what, 7 years? And he's going to come back and people still want to believe that McGregor has the. Chandler's a guy who trains every day. He's never out of shape. I think he's going to kill McGregor.
I think you may be right on that. It'd be real interesting to see McGregor's career resurrected, especially with the attrition he does to his body. He drinks kind of heavy too, I think. And I mean, I don't think these guys understand, man. They think, well, it's going to last forever. Your body's not going to last forever. And if you want to expedite aging it and slowing yourself down and go losing your legs and drink all the time, find out how fast it goes.
Yeah, no, I think McGregor could be his own worst enemy that way. I'm not sure about Chandler because Chandler and Eddie Alvarez had a lot in common. That they're shorter, stockier. And you talk about a guy with good reach, and at the end of the day, he may not be precise enough to box professionally, but he's a very precise hitter for MMA.
Absolutely.
McGregor is.
McGregor, yeah.
So
A hell of a striker.
So if you let him, and Chandler's gonna not have reach. Chandler's also 40.
You're right. The one thing that I think McGregor had better than anybody at his peak was timing. His timing was, oh man,
the
his
Jose
timing was
Aldo fight.
unreal. Aldo, oh my god, yeah.
And Alvarez too. I match made Eddie Alvarez a dozen times. I knew him, and I said, "There's no way McGregor beats him before the fight." And he was too precise, And Eddie has street in him too, Eddie's a guy who's beaten up much bigger people his whole life, and he got lucky making money fighting because he was kind of born to do it. And I thought he had, that in his credit, where he was a real fighter, but the height, the reach, McGregor does know the precision that he needs, and he hurt him early, and it was a mess from there. So I worry about Chandler. I think that this was matchmaking that's very much in McGregor's favor on paper, anyway. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
And we'll see how much McGregor's been drinking.
Well, and more, he's.
I mean, I like Connor. He's been great. You know, he was a he had a good. He was a great promoter too. You know, it's like when Don King had Ali. He didn't have to do much promoting. Ali was great at it, and McGregor was great at it. And it didn't take the Dana White to really put him out there. He was good at putting himself out there, but he could also back it up. We'll see.
Oh, yeah.
I hopefully he's not, been partying too much. A lot of these guys get off into some crazy stuff when you start talking about $100 million and whatever, and a lot of time on their hands. Seeing De La Hoya do some weird stuff. Seen a number of them get into quite a weird, a lot of weird things, but especially drugs and alcohol. That's the one thing that'll take you down quick as anything. Hopefully he's not.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens in June 28th. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah.
To me, it's at the point where, because of everything Scott mentioned, when he's in the ring and the bell rings, that's when I know the fight's going to go on. At any moment before it, we might get a story or some kind of debacle that ruins the fight for us again. We've already seen it a few times, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I think Chan, just keep it simple. Take him down and hit him in the head. I mean, don't complicate things. He's the superior wrestler. Just take him down and smash him to pieces. That's it.
Yeah, don't get hit coming in.
Yeah,
don't get hit coming in. Yeah, that's a fact.
Well, guys, it's been great talking to you. I mean, I appreciate both your expertise, and it's great.
It's a pleasure meeting you.
Pleasure meeting you too, Miguel. Great talking to you, man.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely, man. You're a wealth of knowledge. I could talk forever, man.
For sure.
And Todd both.
I know your brother real well too. He used to drive up to our hook and shoot shows in Indiana with Bob Voss.
I remember,
So when he said Scott Burnett was coming on, I was like, oh, that's fantastic. So and you didn't, like I said, I know you've been in the business from the 90s and stuff like that. So I was definitely looking forward to everything you said too.
Likewise. Yeah, it's been great.
Cool. Thank you, sir.
I think it'd be fun to call a fight with you guys. That'd be fun. That'd be fun to commentate together with you two.
Yeah, maybe we should do that.
It'd be interesting.
Pick a fight. Maybe we do a McGregor fight.
Be interesting.
Be a month away. So we'll see.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, it's great talking to you. And
have a great evening, guys.
And everyone who watched the episode, we appreciate it. Check out Miguel's channel, MMA Collector 74, and you can find Scott on Instagram at it's Scott Burnett Fit, right?
Yep.
All right. Yeah, on Instagram, Scott Burnett Fit. And as always, people, until next time, take care.
Live to Fight is the type of company that Dana killed. It's a homegrown. It's a guy that just does good work. And, puts it out there. And if you can support him, you really should, because he's precisely a guy who can't, his banners may not be able to hang on to UFC because he hasn't been able to pay them $100,000 to get his stuff out there. That's the corporate stuff that we're talking about now with the UFC, that, they've made everything at that level where it's all about money for them. And Live to Fight is a dude that does good work, makes you a great banner, and doesn't have $100,000 to get on the UFC and stuff, and deserves support. So any fighter out there, anybody out there, owner of a gym or anything like that listens to us, God bless you and thank you very much for your support. And extend that to Live to Fight, because he's one of us. Those guys are one of us.